Dave Roberts punted Game 3 of the NLDS while having a chance to sweep. Instead, they just gave the Phillies new life.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. What was a competitive game for 7 innings went off the rails in the 8th, and now Los Angeles has one last chance to clinch at home, or else we're looking at a Game 5 in Philadelphia on Saturday. A do or die in front of one of the loudest, craziest, most hostile fan bases in baseball. The Dodgers must avoid that at all costs, Travis.
This is why you never count out a team like the Phillies. Let's not go back to Philadelphia. I don't need that in my life.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Locked On MLB. Use that code and head over to Travis Ravine later today. He's Travis Rodgers. I'm Harry Ruiz, two guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger Blue for life. You can get more Travis on 710 ESPN LA or the ESPN LA app from 3 to 6 p.m. on the Travis and DeMarco show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for the USC Football Trojans and the Las Vegas Raiders. Travis is going to be a little bit distracted during work today. I hope the Dodgers clinch today, because if not, I'm going to be distracted on Saturday when I'm calling a USC football game. Right. So Dodgers, please take care of business today. Remember, thank you to everyone who's joining the party now here talking Dodger baseball with us on Locked On Dodgers. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like and a comment, as we love listening to what you have to say. You can also sound off via text or voicemail on our listener line 2793-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. Travis and I have been hosting the podcast now since July, and the last week we've seen a number boom. So thank you so much for joining us and being here with us. Now, let's talk about yesterday's game, because you could see the tone of this game shift inning by inning. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, unfortunately, Travis, he just didn't have it yesterday, and we knew it was going to be a risk, and it was going to eventually happen in the postseason. We had gone 4-0 before yesterday's game in the playoff. Eventually, one of the starters wasn't going to go 6, wasn't going to strike out 9, and that was yesterday with game number 3 at Dodger Stadium of the NLDS.
Yeah, it was the first time a Dodger starting pitcher had taken a loss since September 4th. Okay, so that is a really long time, and the Dodgers had been on an incredible heater when it came to their starting pitching for quite some time. Yamamoto, like you said, Harry, he just didn't have it. You could tell early on that he was not the same guy that we've seen for the last couple of months, and that happens occasionally. I guess if you're going to have a bit of a clunker, that to have it with a 2-0 lead is the place to do it. He only had a couple of strikeouts. He wasn't able to put guys away, and when Kyle Schwarber hit that ball, to the 76 station in center field, it felt like things had changed quite a bit. The Dodgers just didn't play well last night. They'd won 7 in a row coming into that game. They looked pretty darn good. You're not going to win every playoff game. Like I said yesterday, like I said all day long on my radio show yesterday, the Phillies were going to show up last night. They're going to show up again today. They've got really good players that Turner and Schwarber and Harper and Castellanos and Real Muto. Those guys are good players, and they're going to show up. They're not going to be scared. They're going to play hard. The Dodgers are going to have to match the intensity. They're going to have to match the moment, and they couldn't do it last night. That's okay. I mean, it's disappointing to be sure, but you're not going to go through the playoffs at 13-0 and have everything be easy peasy. There are going to be some bumps along the road, and there were some big bumps last night.
We all remember last season against the Padres and the NLDS, how it was stressful, how we needed 5 games, how we needed a series-defining game at home to clinch that ticket to the NLCS. And then after that, there wasn't much stress, Travis. It felt like a walk in the park against the Mets. It felt like a walk in the park against the Yankees. But neither of those series were sweeps. It was in 6 games against the Mets. It was in 5 games against the Yankees. So that's what yesterday I asked. Is it just a one-off, or is the Phillies getting momentum now in this series? And we're going to find out today. If the Dodgers are out there and they get to Christopher Sanchez, it's going to be a one-off. That loss yesterday against the Phillies. If they struggle once again, then it's the Phillies now gaining momentum and potentially going to the next game on Saturday, defining Game 5. But Yoshinobu Yamamoto, man, he got into the 5th inning, but was pulled during the 5th inning. And when you talk about his numbers, 6 hits, 1 walk, 3 runs, that's not a disaster.
No.
It's not wave the white flag territory. The problem was that the bats didn't work in yesterday's game. They didn't get the job done, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show because we got to give credit where credit's due. The bullpen actually came in and gave the Dodgers a real chance to get back into it. Anthony Banda looked solid. 1 base runner via the walk for him. Jack Dreyer, same story in the 6th. Calm, composed, got his outs. The game was 3-1. It was still right there. It was still winnable. I got to give a big shout out to these 2 guys because it hasn't been often that we've been able to praise the bullpen for the job that they've done in the last month and a half.
Yeah, no, those 2 guys were really good. And I think what'll be interesting about today's game coming up is, do they respond the way they responded last year? I think you bring up a good point about last year's, the Mets series in the CS and then the World Series against the Yankees. And even in the DS against the Padres after they lost Game 3, that was when Walker Buehler and the Dodgers, they couldn't make a play defensively. And they kind of came back and had a little scrappy fire in that game. They didn't win it, but after that, they responded exactly how you would like to see a team respond. They played really good baseball. They were intense. They were plugged in. They were ready to go. I think this is the first time they're going to have to respond in a while, right? I mean, it's been a minute since they had their backs against the wall. And this is, I think, a moment where their back is against the wall. How do they respond? And I think you got a pretty good indication of not so bad, right? Like you mentioned, Jack Dreyer was pretty good. Anthony Banda was pretty good. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about Clayton Kershaw coming up here in just a little bit. He was pretty terrible, frankly. But I'm optimistic. I didn't think they were going to sweep this series. I think that, you're in the part of the year where you're playing nothing but good teams. They didn't have a good night. They didn't swing the bat particularly well. Ranger Suarez was terrific for the Phillies. Aaron Nola was good for the Phillies. Like the Phillies pulled all the right moves and their big guns showed up and played really well. Schwarber, Harper, and Turner were all really good last night. And, that's okay. I mean, it's disappointing for sure, but the series is far from over. I didn't think it was going to go, 3 in a row. I didn't think the Dodgers would win 2 in a row in Philadelphia. And here we are. And now it's a chance to respond and show championship mettle, which I think they have. Yeah, they've done one of the great things about the 2025 Dodgers. Like when you go through it, and we'll see how it ends, but they never really hit those stride the way we thought they were. That 110, 115 win teams, like it never really hit there. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But what they were really good at all season long is even when they were going kind of bad, when they had to have it, they usually got it. When when the Padres got close, when the Padres jumped over them really quickly, the Dodgers responded and retook the lead. When the Padres caught them again, the Dodgers responded and took the lead. When it got towards the end of the season,
Giants for a hot second.
Absolutely, great example. The Giants for a second. They always responded in a very positive way, and I expect them to respond positively today.
Yeah, and I mean, you brought up Clayton Kershaw. The 7th inning, it was all right. He got out of it.
Can I interrupt? No, it wasn't. He was terrible in the 7th inning. He was dreadful in the 7th inning.
No, I said he got out of it. I didn't say he was good. He just got out of it, which was
survived.
Like, hey,
he survived
without allowing a run.
But that was one of those wah, wah, wah. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. Get him out of the game. And nobody listened. Nobody. Dave Roberts did not listen because a base running gaff by Schwarber at first base and 2 rockets to Teoscar Hernandez for the outs. He was living dangerously. I was shocked to see him go back out there.
Yeah, 8th inning. That 8th inning happened. And, man, it's this inning again. For the 4th time in 5 postseason games this year, the 8th inning was a nightmare for the Dodgers. Kershaw clearly was out of gas. He got tagged for 5 runs, 4 of them earned, and suddenly what had been a competitive, grinded out game turned into a blowout. If you had gotten out of the 8th inning still 3-1, the Phillies were going to throw Joan Duran into the game. That didn't happen. They're going to have their high leverage guys completely rested for this game, for Game 4 on Thursday. But we can say the same thing about the Dodgers. Their high leverage guys are available in this game. And now we go to an interesting situation too, because man, what can we say about Kershaw? He wasn't good. He didn't deliver. You pushed him and you saw him get tagged over and over and over again, and you didn't do anything. Personally, on social media, I was saying, Tanner Scott, throw him out there. Tanner Scott. It turns out he wasn't at the game. So when he isn't at the game for a personal reason, I'm starting to think, okay, hopefully everything's okay. Hopefully everything's good with him and all his loved ones. If he's not available, we got a taxi squad. I know that means you're not going to be able to use him in the next series if the Dodgers make it to that next series, but you haven't used him.
You haven't used
in
him
5
already,
games in the postseason. So what's the difference between one thing and the other? So Dave Roberts said that the reason why he isn't with the team is going to come out. It's already Thursday when we're recording today's episode. That hasn't been announced yet. So I'm like, okay, because they ended up using Blake Trinan. I'm like, okay, you go from Blake Trinan being we need him out there. He's been there before. He's done that in a save situation in game 2 to them being mop up in game 3. It doesn't 1-1 doesn't make 2 in this situation right here with Dave Roberts, which at the end of the day, Travis, he punted this game with the way that he played in the last third of the game.
Once Kershaw started to get smacked around, I think the writing was on the wall. And quite frankly, I don't have a huge problem with it. You don't want to use any of your higher leverage guys. And his decision to kind of punt it away, I mean, I don't love it, but I get it. I want to go back to Kershaw for a sec. It hurts to say this because I'm such a huge fan of his. He's been such a great player for such a great time, such a long time, and a Dodger legend to be sure. That was all the bad postseason Kershaw we saw in 2 innings last night. It was afraid to attack the zone. It was missing by a mile. And it was when he came into the zone, he not only got hit, he got hit really, really hard. One of the things that I was optimistic about with Kershaw coming out of that bullpen, I said it to you, Harry, the everydayers know this. Hey, at least he won't walk anybody. Hey, at least he's going to come into the strikes, and at least he's going to attack and be aggressive. And that's not what it was. He pitched very, very passively. He was nibbling. He was spiking curveballs. He was high in the zone. Like, there weren't more than 2 or 3 decent pitches in the whole outing. And this is from a deadlock cinch Hall of Famer. Like, all of the stuff that's out there about Kershaw in the postseason that I want to not get into or not believe because, hey, it's Clayton Kershaw. It was true last night. He got clubbed, and he was walking guys, and he was pitching like that is not what an 18-year-old Hall of Famer is supposed to look like. It was incredibly disappointing. And quite frankly, Harry, I don't know if he didn't pitch himself right out of the mix. Like that could be one of those. That was so bad. I don't know if I can use him again. He's almost a strike him off the list kind of situation now. We'll see what the game flow kind of opens up as, but I can't imagine anybody's dying to see him go back out there with the game on the line.
Especially when you roll with 11 pitchers in this round and this happens, you put yourself in a tough spot because he ended up throwing 48 pitches, 6 hits, 3 walks, and it was a disaster in 2 innings for Clayton Kershaw. But they've got one more shot at home. One. Because if this thing goes back to Philly, good luck. But for all the talk about pitching and decision-making, let's be real. This lineup hasn't shown up either. Shohei Ohtani and Andy Pages, 1 hit each in this entire series. That's it. Next on Locked On Dodgers, we'll talk about just how concerned LA fans should be with 2 key bats being complete non-factors in October.
All right, guys. So you've probably heard of Viagra. You've probably heard of Cialis, and maybe you've even tried one or both of them. But if you're looking for something beyond that usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet Go Long comes in, right? This isn't just another ED pill. It is a total and complete game changer for your confidence. Go Long combines 2 trusted medications, doctor-trusted medications, in one dual-action formula so you can, go the distance, right? The effects can last up to 36 hours. That means confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. And the process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your door. If prescribed, your treatment comes right to your door. How nice is that? So if you're ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom, head to rugiet.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use the code so they know that we sent you.
Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. Let's talk offense. Let's talk about those bats, or really the lack of it. Through the 3 games, the Dodgers have scored just enough to win twice in the NLDS. But this was the first time since Game 5 of last year's NLDS that they were held under 4 runs in a postseason game. That right there is a problem. And when you dig deeper, you see why. Shohei Ohtani, 1 hit. It was an RBI single, so we'll take it. Andy Pajes, 1 hit. Both guys have been practically invisible with the bat in their hands. And even Ohtani, out of his 13 outs in the postseason, 7 have been via the strikeout. Travis, when your leadoff man who has been your power hitter all season long, and then the guy later in the lineup who had the second most home runs all postseason long, when neither of them is feeling their groove in the batter's box, that's a huge issue for your team. Even though you're stacked with stars, stacked with $100 million players throughout the lineup, you need these 2 guys in their groove.
Yeah, you do. Let's kind of take them through one at a time. I think what's going on with Ohtani is pretty obvious because it's so rare to see it with Ohtani. He's just pressing. Like, that Ohtani is so chill. Ohtani is so just incredibly self-confident and just goes up there and like, hurry up and throw me one because I know I'm going to square one up eventually. I'm not worried about it. I think that one of the great things about Ohtani is he's able to rise his game to the moment, to meet the moment without going beyond that, without trying to do too much, that he does what he is capable of and kind of lives in that zone of extreme self-confidence, extreme ability, and just knows that it's going to come. It feels like he's risen a little bit above that. And he's just, I mean, you look at him, I know he's a big swinger and I know he strikes out a lot. So that's not the end of the world. But even by his standards, it feels like he's gotten bigger than he typically does. Even by his standards, it feels like he's guessing at a rate that is abnormal for him because some of those strikeouts that you mentioned, and again, Ohtani strikes out a lot. So I'm not worried about him striking out. But what's weird is he's striking out looking at a rate that is a little bit more unusual for him. And I think he's just guessing to an extreme level and he's guessing wrong right now. All of that being said, I don't worry about him at all, right? Like it just give me Ohtani over. He'll figure it out. He very rarely goes a long stretch where he doesn't kind of sort of find his groove again. So I think the Ohtani comeback is right around the corner. I really, it's a mini little slump, whatever. He'll be fine. Pajes, I think, is a little differently. They're pitching him tougher. Andy Pajes is used to hitting in the bottom of the order and getting a lot of guys, hitting off a lot of guys that are not elite level relievers, that are not elite level starters. And he feasted on it, and good for him. You're not getting a lot of those guys. They are grinding at bats 1 through 9. None of these are easy at bats. None of these are easy spots. And I think that he's pressing too. But you can tell the way that they're pitching because you said it, Harry. This is the second leading home run hitter on the Dodger roster. They know who he is. They know how to be careful with him. And I think that's what they're doing. And, like again, he's a young player and he wants to be important at the most important moments. He's pressing a little bit too. I think he's in a similar boat to Ohtani. Once he gets a hit, he will calm down, he will settle in, and he will go back to being Andy Pajes because they need him, right? They need the stars to be the stars. Look at the Phillies last night. The Phillies through the first 2 games, their big 3 of Schwarber, Turner, and Harper really didn't do anything. Last night, Turner, Harper, and Schwarber, they killed it. They won the game. I think the opposite is true. Freddie has been really quiet in this series as well. So I think you get Ohtani going. Mookie's been swinging a pretty decent bat. He had a couple of hits last night. But, yeah, Pajes and Ohtani in particular, let's go. If you said to me, game on the line, Shohei Ohtani's up, you feel pretty good? Absolutely, I do. Let's just let those guys settle in. Let them get a hit, and I think the tension bleeds off a little bit. Ohtani's just pressing. It's clear as day.
And Ohtani, as you said, we'll take him over any other major leaguer right now to be up at the plate. Andy Paez, on the other hand, his own manager didn't take him with the game 3-1 in the 7th inning. He benched him for Miguel Rojas, who came in as a pinch hitter, and then Justin Dean as a defensive replacement, and that isn't good. That's bad news right there for Andy Paez, which I hope it's just a wake-up call. It's like, hey, man, we got something big on the line. You were a part of a postseason roster. You know what it takes to win the World Series. This isn't going to cut it, because earlier in the game, when the Phillies took the lead, it was actually with a throw from Paez, who was trying to be overly aggressive, trying to get Bryce Harper at third base. It went off of Max Muncy's glove, went into the dugout. That gave him an extra base and got the leading run to home. And then also the 3-1, the lead extender to third base with that throw from Andy Paez. So it's like, hey, it's playoff baseball, man. Every single base matters. Let's just play it cool when it's a close game, as it is, because if not, Travis, you could have been in a position for a double play. You could have been in a position to get another out with Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound. So all around right here, you've seen Paez. His timing is off. The confidence that he showed in the first half of the season just hasn't translated to October yet. Hopefully that changes, because the Dodgers definitely need it. We got to give credit to the Phillies and their pitchers, but we know that these two players are way better than what we've seen in the last 5 days.
Yeah, I know Paez got charged with that error in center field, and it wasn't a good throw. I'm not taking it off his plate. It was a bad throw, but Muncy's got to body that. Like, once you realize that throw is not going to get the guy out, you got to knock that ball down right there and keep, like you said, keep the one runner, from coming in, keep the other runner at first base where he probably is, or at least keep him at second base to where you got to get a hit to score him. But I think you're right. Those guys will be all right. Last night, to me, was much more about what the Phillies did well than what the Dodgers did poorly. The Phillies, just a good team, played well. Okay. I mean, that's going to happen occasionally. The only thing that made me go kind of, I don't know, man, was the Kershaw performance. Yamamoto had a bad night. If fast forward to Yamamoto's next start, if we get to Yamamoto's next start, I have supreme confidence that he will deliver again. Like, there's no downside to he just didn't pitch his best last night. The Phillies played well. The Kershaw component of it is oh boy, because now that's one less arm that you can at least potentially trust in the bullpen. But the Phillies are good. The Phillies played really well. They kicked the Dodgers' butt last night. Let's play another one and see what happens.
I'll say this. If this lineup doesn't wake up today, we might be talking about their offseason starting way earlier than expected.
We talked about it on yesterday's show. That's why you got to be at every day, or when I forget what the caller's name was. So would you rather play
from Los Feliz?
It's like, hold up. This isn't over. They're really good. The Dodgers are really good. But the idea that Phillies team can't win 3 in a row was just crazy to me. Of course they can. Now, I expect the Dodgers to win today, but this is far from over. The Phillies, like I said it yesterday, Bryce Harper will be at Dodger Stadium today. Kyle Schwarber will be at Dodger Stadium today. Trey Turner's going to show up ready to go. So the Dodgers need to be ready to go as well.
And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Can this Dodgers team handle the pressure? Game 4 at home, 3:08 p.m. first pitch. Tyler Glasnow on the mound. And if they don't close it out now, Saturday in Philly could turn into pure chaos. We'll talk about the pressure, the stakes, and Glasnow's readiness coming up on Locked On Dodgers. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets? That's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets, delivered on time, and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app has made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before even buying it. Download the Game Time app, Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it, smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and the Dodgers postcast show with Pete Fox live after the final out of every game. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. This is what October baseball is all about, pressure. And tonight, the Dodgers are swimming in it. Tyler Glasnow gets the ball for Game 4, and honestly, that's both comforting and nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yeah.
He's got ace-like stuff. He's a big money arm, but he hasn't started a game since September 27th. That's 11 days ago, almost 2 weeks, and he only went 3 innings in Seattle that day. So now he's being asked to not only start a potential clincher, but do it on long rests that might have him a little bit cold, Travis.
Yeah, maybe. I do like the fact that he pitched out of the bullpen a little bit. That at least gets, keeps your pitches. You get the feel for the pitches. It's not like he hasn't thrown a competitive pitch since then. He has. He's thrown some pretty high pressure competitive pitches in that period of in that window of time. So I have pretty good feelings about the part about Glasnow that's always kind of a mystery when he goes out there is, between his ears. Is he going to be able to overcome the little things that go wrong? Because little things go wrong all the time. That's just, baseball, and that's in particular playoff baseball. So can he kind of grind through those things? I like him on his rest where he is right now. Christopher Sanchez going for the Phillies today is going on a little bit of a shorter rest. The Dodgers didn't exactly knock him around, but at least they got to him a little bit. So I think there's some confidence there. But I like where the Dodgers are pitching-wise coming into this game. I really do. I think that, obviously getting knocked around the way they did in Game 3 wasn't great, but they didn't burn up anybody that you're thinking, oh, man, we're going to need him tonight, because you could conceivably go Glasnow, Sheehan, Sasaki and get to the finish line without ever having to go to any of those other guys. And I think you feel pretty good about that. I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't be stunned if you saw a Blake Snell getting loose in the bullpen at a particular point in time, because this could be an in-between throwing day, and all of a sudden we'll just go do it on the mound if you need to get an out or two. I think the only guy that's completely off the table for tonight, and maybe not completely, let's say it's 98% off the table, is Shohei. Because you're going to need Shohei for Game 5 if, in fact, it goes to Game 5. Now, if the Dodgers have a lead in the 9th inning and for whatever reason they've already used Sasaki, they've used Sheehan, and there's nobody left, then maybe Ohtani at that point to try to close it out without, having to play a Game 5. But I really do think that Ohtani is the only guy that's completely or near completely off the table. They've got some options. They're in a pretty good spot today. If they can swing the bats a little bit, I think the pitching will hold up.
Hopefully that's the case, because we really need to get this win out of the way, get some rest before the NLCS starts on Monday. And I love going back to what has happened recently between a pitcher and that team. Glasnow, he faced the Phillies earlier this season in the series over in Philadelphia. It didn't go well. 2 innings, 5 runs, 5 walks, total loss of command. He'll tell you that he's a different guy right now, that the rhythm and timing are better, but that game happened this year. The Phillies remember it, and hopefully that's not the case, that they're like, hey, let's go with the tendencies of what works on him. But the same goes now for the Dodgers. They've seen Christopher Sanchez now just 5 days ago, and they know what he has, what he doesn't have, what works, what doesn't work, and what can benefit this team to be able to start getting hacks off of him, start getting hits, start getting walks, start benefiting from getting looks that they already got less than a week ago. So that goes both ways here, Travis.
It does. I'll be honest. I always go back to this poll that they took of major league players. This was coming into the season, and they were talking about the guys with just the best stuff, the guys that are the hardest to square up in Major League Baseball. This was a poll of major league hitters, and Tyler Glasnow was in the top 5. Like you take all of the pitchers in baseball, and Tyler Glasnow, who is, the fourth best pitcher on the Dodgers. Now, not by a huge margin. They're all kind of number ones along the way, but that he was the guy that was in there as the hardest guy to square up, the best stuff. That I always go back to that when he pitches. I think this with Glasnow, it's always a between the ears thing, much more so than a does the stuff play thing. The stuff plays. We've seen it play over and over again. And a bad outing 9 months ago doesn't really freak me out all that much. I believe him that he's a slightly different guy as far as his timing, his rhythm, his mechanics. I know that he's very into that kind of stuff, but I'm cautiously optimistic with him because I think this is an opportunity for him to contribute in a way that he hasn't had a chance to do in his first couple of years. Last year, he really wasn't around very much for the Dodgers. He wasn't around at all for their postseason run. He contributed in a relief role, and he goes out there and posts a 6-inning outing where he only gives up a run or two and really shuts down a dangerous Phillies lineup. This is an opportunity for him to kind of put his stamp on this series and his run as a Dodger so far.
Now, here's a question mark, Travis, when it comes to the catcher situation. Will Smith started for the first time in over a month yesterday. Good for him. Ben Rortvedt, though, seemed to had the pitching staff under control. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto didn't have a good game with Will Smith behind the plate. Would you start with Ben Rortvedt at the plate for this game and then use that strategy that you did in Philadelphia, throwing Will Smith in the game later in the game, midway through the game, when the second time the catcher comes up to bat? Or do you just stick with Will Smith?
I have a theory, and it cuts across baseball, basketball, football, you name it. This is my theory. I'm going to use my best guys. Will Smith is your best guy. I think it's as simple as that. Ben Rortvedt's in really good. I'm not saying that he doesn't have a role on this team. I'm not saying that there aren't that if Smith is hurt and can't go, then Rortvedt's in, and I feel pretty good about it. But for me, these sorts of decisions are always pretty simple. Who is the better player? Will Smith is the better player. I'll put him in the lineup.
Fantastic. I think it's worth a shot just thinking about it. And hopefully by the end of the game, we're not like, man, we should have done this, we should have done that. Yeah. The Dodgers just push the right buttons because they've got the talent. They've got the payroll. They've got home field advantage right now. So now it's about guts. If this Dodgers team closes it out tonight, we'll look back at Game 3 as a hiccup, and hopefully that's the case. If they don't, then Saturday becomes the kind of pressure cooker that can crush even the best teams. And Game 3 will end up being the momentum shifter that the Phillies needed. So can Glasnow deliver the knockout? Can the bats finally wake up? And can Dave Roberts redeem himself after punting away Game 3? We'll find out very, very soon. All right, that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Dodgers. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday, hopefully to talk about the boys in blue having their ticket punched to the NLCS for the second year in a row and for the fourth time in their last 6 seasons. Travis, I need this so bad to happen today.
I'm optimistic. I didn't think they'd go through this series without losing a game, so I'm not. It was a little bit of an unforced. The way that they lost was a little bit surprising, but they're okay. They're all right. I am optimistic going into this one, and even if they have to go to Philadelphia, they're real good too. Like I've been saying about the Phillies. Phillies are good. So are the Dodgers. Those guys are going to show up too.
I'm not as optimistic as I was for Game 2, but I am optimistic for this one. Hopefully we pull it off. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real. Keep it Dodger Blue.